Hello bug hunters, XenoMom here with my first ever movie review on YouTube. I fell in love with the first Alien film when I was just 3 years old, so it's super exciting that AlienRomulus gets to be the first movie I review on my channel. Here's a quick overview. A group of young space colonists plan to improve their lot in life by scavenging hypersleep chambers from a derelict Weyland-Yutani space station that they find floating above their mining colony. After boarding the station, they quickly find a lot more than just cryo chamber pods. In fact, it's not long before they come face-to-face hugger, and we all know what that means. So, after one of the newly arrived scavengers becomes, quote-unquote, impregnated, a Xenomorph is born, it wreaks havoc on the ship, and typical Alien franchise hijinks ensue. I am making this video review as spoiler-free as possible, so forgive me if a few of my points are a little vague. My recommendation is to get out there, watch the movie, and then come back and watch my spoiler-full review that I'll be posting later. For now, let's talk about what I think AlienRomulus got right. Marketing. From the very beginning, AlienRomulus has gone hard with their marketing campaign. From facehugger flash mobs in New York and surprise attacks during convention interviews, to sending press outlets literal VHS tapes with clips of the movie, the advertising team's work on this has been on point from the get-go. There were some truly original and engaging tactics going on there, not to mention the popcorn buckets, which I don't think any theater realized were going to be as popular as they are. But what makes these buckets so cool is that they're not just for popcorn. Plenty of people are using them as display items or even nightlights. How cool is that? The AlienRomulus production team also brought their A-game when it comes to atmosphere. I hate when sequels, and especially prequels, utilize technology that is obviously superior to what's already been established in the timeline. Romulus, however, does a great job of maintaining the same feel as the original Alien movie, which only predates it by a couple decades. Additionally, you can tell that director Fede Alvarez was really excited to explore some of the original art concepts that inspired the franchise, which were supplied by Swiss artist H.R. Giger. Having recently visited Giger's museum in Switzerland, I was able to identify his grotesque blend of human physiques and machines pretty much everywhere in the film. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that AlienRomulus utilizes more of Giger's art than any other film in the franchise. But do these so-called perfect organisms actually look good on screen? Heck yeah, they do! I am beyond thrilled that AlienRomulus has finally made the return back to practical effects. Horror fans around the world have been asking for production teams to return to physical techniques and props over computer-generated imagery literally for years. And Romulus has finally delivered on that request. Additionally, where CGI was required, I do feel like the production team incorporated it pretty well. There is one glaring issue that I have that I can't get over, but you'll have to tune into a future video for all the spoily details on what that is. A couple of the scenes were even reminiscent of the visuals found in Interstellar, which I firmly believe provided the prettiest and most realistic portrayal of space to date. AlienRomulus also deserves some praise for maintaining established franchise themes, while also appropriately expanding upon them. Motherhood, for example, has always been prominent in both action and imagery in the Aliens movies, as has family in general, both biological and found. It's actually one of the more touching elements of the Alien franchise, and Romulus beautifully explores yet another facet of it, adding even more emotional depth to the movies overall, which ultimately makes them even scarier because you actually care about what's happening to the characters. Most of the characters. Other familiar themes that they managed to incorporate include corporate capitalism and oppression, teamwork, creation, and ultimately what it means to be human. Additionally, I really appreciate that AlienRomulus doesn't narrate every little character interaction for me. Instead, they seem to expect audience members to pick up some stuff on their own. There are some relationship dynamics that become obvious really quickly, but others are a lot easier to miss, especially if you don't hear a line or two. Romulus does a good job of providing a strong foundation from which we can draw some of our own conclusions. As audience members, we sense immediately that these characters have full histories. Not all of those histories are relevant to the movie, but you can still tell that they influence the characters' thoughts and actions throughout. And what's even better is that as a viewer with even a little context for the franchise setting, you're actually able to use the lack of exposition to understand this futuristic, corporate oppressed nightmare hellhole a lot better. Let's talk fear factor. The original Alien film is truly intense and preys on some very real fears. As far as the fear factor goes, however, I wouldn't say that any of the succeeding movies in the franchise have really been that scary. Tense? Yes. Horrific? Sure. Spine-tingling? Not really. AlienRomulus, on the other hand, is actually a little chilling. I wouldn't say that I was terrified while watching it, but it definitely did move me in that direction. Romulus provides a really good mix of slow tension, action, jump scares, body horror, and just plain grotesqueness, which culminates in what I would call a scary-ish movie. It is worth noting that I am probably a little desensitized at this point. Horror is by far my favorite genre, and I think the Xenomorphs are just fucking cool. So I'm much more likely to cheer than scream when I see them. One of the things that I like best about AlienRomulus is how much it actually references the original content material. Straight from the opening credits, there are clear callbacks to previous movies. From sounds, scene sequences, props, music, shot angles, character interaction, and even dialogue. Romulus could be described as just one really long love letter to the franchise. Interestingly, I've actually seen some negative reviews about this, stating that Romulus is too nostalgic and simply resting on the laurels of the franchise's previous successes. And yeah, that is a huge issue in Hollywood right now. The market is completely saturated with remakes and sequels to movies that we never really wanted, which makes it seem like there's truly no one left in the industry with original ideas anymore. But I really don't think that that's the case for Romulus. Alien franchise fans have been begging directors and producers to return to the original Alien and Aliens films for inspiration for over 20 years. Did we want an exact carbon copy? No. And that's not what Romulus is. Sure, they include numerous references to the original content, some of which I have some issues with. But I'm willing to give the creators a little slack because at least they overcorrected in the right direction. Ultimately, I think that's where some of the negativity might have stemmed from. Fede Alvarez and his production team are actually fans of the franchise. And every Alien fan knows that the first two films are far superior to all others. So yeah, it's not surprising in the least that they incorporated a lot of callbacks. Especially because it works. Fans are finally squirming in their seats again. As I see it, the real task for AlienRomulus was to revitalize the franchise as a whole. And with a current Rotten Tomatoes rating sitting in the 80s, I'd say that they succeeded, especially when compared to other attempts since Alien and Aliens. It's also worth noting that although it does make strong references to the original content, Romulus still tells its own story. Now, if we see a second movie that's still inundated with notes from Alien and Aliens, I might have something different to say. But until that happens, I'll call this nostalgia-filled installment a win. I do want to be clear that that doesn't mean I have absolutely no issues with Romulus. On the contrary, I actually have a few concerns. While I can't go into too much detail without spoilers, I do want to share a couple things that I don't like about the movie. Although I was mostly impressed with how space physics worked, there were still a few moments that exceeded my suspension of disbelief. This isn't a new thing for sci-fi or fantasy movies, but there were a few instances that really rubbed me the wrong way. There's also a pretty significant instance when an established mechanic suddenly doesn't work the way that it's worked the entire time. That said, some of the scenes that I take issue with could be cleared up with another rewatch. Or one of you might be able to explain something that I missed, which is why I'm going to be releasing another video that dives into some of those questions I still have a little bit deeper. Make sure you like and subscribe if you want to be notified when that video drops, especially if you're into super detailed, analytical conversations about movies. My final issue actually deals with the CGI. I know, I already said that the CGI was pretty good when it was utilized. But this is a different kind of CGI that really bugs me. Again, I can't go into too many details because of spoilers, but I will say that there is one very specific instance when CGI is used to portray something that could have been portrayed by something real. What the hell do I mean by that? It's like the way that they used a fake dog in the 2019 version of Call of the Wild, when there are actually plenty of real dogs that they could have used for the filming instead. Now, I've already rationalized the decision in my head, and I begrudgingly accept it, but I don't like having to do that for movies. When you watch the movie, you'll probably see what I'm talking about almost immediately after it's on screen. If you want my complete thoughts on the issue and how I have rationalized the decision, make sure you come back to my channel and take a look at the full spoiler review that I'll be releasing later. So, what are my final thoughts on the AlienRomulus movie? Honestly, I was pretty worried about how it was going to turn out. While there was a lot of potential for success, I was very afraid that it was going to be another epic fail. Fortunately, that's not what happened. I knew it could never be better than Alien or Aliens, but I do think Romulus has managed to claim a spot as the third best movie in the franchise, which is a really great achievement. For me, it's easily the best Alien movie that has been released in my lifetime, and that's really exciting. And I hope that that means that the creators are finally back on the right track and that we'll be seeing even more good movies from the franchise. If you found this video helpful, please do the like and subscribe thing, as I'll be releasing a lot more movie content moving forward. Until then, this is XenoMom signing off.